What's up, guys? It is March 24th, 2017. Time for Q&A response from yesterday. Posted this thread yesterday on the 23rd. So get these questions answered for you guys. Let's see what we have here. I'm actually not going to cover the first one because I talked to this person in depth about this already. So we'll go to number 2. All right. What would be a good approach for a post-contest rebound to stay lean and grow? Have no experience with peptides, just low to moderate anabolic use. Okay, within this thread, the person's mainly referring to the supplement side of things and not really nutritionally. As far as I'll try to cover both without making it too lengthy. As far as supplementation goes, there's two ways to look at this. You need to look at how hard was your prep, how hard did you push in that regard, where are your health markers at, get blood work done. They're probably going to be skewed, but how bad? And then kind of determine from there. Ideally nothing would be best. I just not super keen on, the idea of continuing to push them harder and harder. Now, I think a little extension is okay for some people, extending it out a little bit just to make it not as an abrupt change. So, one or two things left in the mix at a lower dose. That way the change isn't as abrupt. You can adjust and then drop everything out. Now, this person mentions 350 test, 210 with Tren and Masteron. I really wouldn't be putting Tren in there when your lipids and stuff are already going to be messed up. To begin with, everything's going to be pretty hammered. That would be the last thing that you probably want in the mix at that point when you've already prepped. So honestly, probably not the best idea. Maybe something a little more mild than that with a slightly elevated testosterone level. And that's still going to produce growth because calories are going to be in a surplus now. As far as MK677 goes, and that would probably be good too, just because for obviously the growth hormone output and the fact that you're going to be pretty insulin sensitive at that point, so it's probably not going to disrupt that too badly. Now, the one issue with that I would be very careful of is the fact that it is a ghrelin mimetic, so it's going to make you hungry, and your ghrelin's already going to be whacked out anyhow, and your leptin. So, my main concern with that is if it starts making you uncontrollably hungry and craving like you can't control it, I'd get rid of it. You mentioned CJC, another peptide. That's fine. They're all going to stimulate ghrelin to some extent, but maybe CJC with something like ipamorelin, which is just not going to be as abrupt, or actual growth hormone, which is not going to stimulate ghrelin as badly. I just think the issue there, like I said, would be stimulating ghrelin heavily at a point where it's already pretty whacked out to begin with, and people have a hard time staying on plan anyhow. So, I'd probably be careful with that. Also, IGF-DES, for the nutrient partitioning, that's probably all right. Although IGF-DES on paper should help with insulin sensitivity a bit too, so you could probably, being pretty insulin sensitive, you could probably use insulin here too with the peptides, and you probably do pretty well. You're going to be probably raising carbohydrates and stuff anyhow. Really don't see a problem with that. So utilizing other things outside of heavy anabolics, that would be utilizing those other pathways. So I think that's a solid idea, other than I would tame down the anabolic part of it a little bit, or just choice of compound. Someone mentioned nutrition as well, as far as re-adding macros. That's so hard for me to give specifics on, because what you really want to do is try to get people up to being as normal caloric intake as you can, whatever their normal baseline is, and getting metabolism hormones upregulated as quick as you can. But there becomes some other issues. Some people you can get away with going, add them back in pretty quick. Some people are a little more susceptible to adipose tissue, or gaining fat. So you're going to need to take them a little slow, even though it might, take them a little longer to get their health markers back up to normal. It's really pros and cons at this point. You have the psychological aspect of it too. Are they okay with accepting quick weight gain? You have to get it through to them that it's going to happen, but how quickly can you do it without compromising, just getting totally sloppy or totally losing your mind? So This is something that's so person specific, and you have to weigh, like I said, weigh the physical parts with the psychological parts and kind of set up your plan from there as far as how quickly you can go. All right. Next question. Someone talks about gut health, just some basic things you can use for gut health. Says he uses probiotic, and that's all he really mentions. But as far as just general gut health goes, if you're having problems with slow digestion, I really like the Project AD Ravenous that I use. You can go anywhere 1 cap to 2 caps, even 3 caps in a bigger meal. It covers, because I mean, the thing that's going to cover gastric emptying, just clearance of food. There's betaine HCL. It's going to cover, it's going to cover your stomach acidity, digestive enzymes. I mean, a lot of that stuff's in there. So just as a general supplement, I think that's really good without getting into tons of specifics. Now, with digestion, you kind of have to be specific though. So I would have to know more about this. Is there certain foods that bother you? Is there certain macros that bother you? Fats versus carbs versus protein, fiber even, certain times of day, other things psychologically that go along with it, stress, sleep. I mean, there's just inflammation. I mean, there's so many things that it's hard to say in general, but that would be a good general supplement to use that covers a lot of bases and is easy to adjust dose-wise. Okay, next one. I really like this next one too. What's your take on creating training programs based on one's psychological profile, i.e. matching training modalities like rest periods, rep ranges, intensity techniques, etc., based on someone's personality? Example, lifter who's very performance focused and aggressive in the gym struggles with doing more volume, in quotations, always goes too hard. Yeah, this is a cool question. So with this, I think this isn't typically considered a lot. I think that they just kind of look at things like, and someone else asked below, what about someone with a very laborious job? Does that play into it? Yeah, it does. So I think a lot of people just look at total activity and then total recovery ability and the intensity. But the problem is someone's rate of perceived exertions can be so much different than someone else's. And you really have to be intuitive and listen to your body. I know personally I like intensity, but I can't train with a ton of volume because it's just not plausible with the way that I like to train. And psychologically, I just really like to train that way. I mean, that's just how I'm wired, and I would personally be sad if I couldn't train hard and just to do more volume. So I kind of milk it through the intensity route where I can and adjust my volume accordingly. Some people psychologically just don't have the personality to train like that. Then they're going to benefit from probably a little bit more volume and creating overload through volume because they just don't, train as hard. So you can base programs off RPE and intensities as much as percentages and all that stuff as much as you want. But at the end of the day, there's still that perceived exertion portion, and it is perceived, and it's just different from each person. So if you find someone that's on one end of the spectrum or another, you do need to consider that when programming. Absolutely. Okay. How does apple cider vinegar act as a glucose disposal agent if it delays gastric emptying, or does it slow the release of glucose into the blood? Apple cider vinegar has supposedly delays gastric emptying. I've never actually had anything noticeable in that regard happen to me. But the studies do show that it lowers blood glucose, increases insulin sensitivity, and blunts insulin release to some point. So it's basically insulin mimetic at that point. Is going to do what insulin should be doing and partitioning nutrients. So yeah, I mean, the research is there. So it clearly works. I'm not too sure on the gastric emptying, to be completely honest. I've never really had that happen to me, but it's going to be more of an insulin mimetic than anything. So who's been your favorite trainer / contest prep coach that you have followed over the years? For what reason did you like him, her? I have not really ever followed anyone that closely, to be honest. That's hard for me. I don't really have a good a good answer for that. There's people that I like that I see on social media and stuff. Just people, basically the other coaches that I think are good coaches. Those are the people that I tend to watch their posts and stuff anyhow. And most of them I'm friends with or know to an extent. I really can't give you a specific answer on that one. All right. Could you talk about the effects of Yohimbine HCL before fasted cardio and what other times a day you might take it? Maybe some other benefits of it. So Yohimbine HCL, depending on who it's marketed to, could be marketed as a libido supplement or for erectile dysfunction, just because of the increase in blood flow that it provides to certain areas, or supposed to. For us, I mean, we're looking at it as a fat loss supplement for the most part. Timing wise, the reason it's fast is insulin blunts the effects of it. So honestly, I mean, you could take it before a training session if you hadn't eaten in a while, just because, you know, you pretty much insulin and glucose should be at baseline at that point anyhow. So on paper, you should be able to take it like that, and it should still work. But a lot of people are taking, you know, they're taking high doses of amino acids and stuff that are glucogenic during training that are going to turn into glucose and probably raise your blood sugar a little bit, and you know, and then maybe intra-workout carbs, which then it'd really be pointless. So fast is just the easiest way. You know that you don't have anything in you. You don't have to guess at all. It works. So that's why we go with fasted, and that's why I normally suggest the whole total of the dose in one dose in the morning, and it's something you usually have to build up to. Okay. Recently, I read something on beef versus whey. So first, is there a noticeable difference in absorption rates? Second, are there any noticeable benefits using beef over whey, or vice versa? For someone having digestive issues with whey isolate, do you suggest them switching to beef protein, or is there another alternative? Jeez. Well, there's a couple things to think about. If you're having problems with whey isolate, then you might have a dairy sensitivity in general, not just lactose. There's usually some really, really tiny amount of lactose in these supplements, regardless if they say lactose free. Sorry, it's getting kind of dark here, guys. Whether they say lactose free or not. But I highly doubt that. I would say you're looking at more of a sensitivity probably from overconsumption, or maybe from overconsumption. So yeah, you could try beef protein isolate. Someone else points out in here them using amino acid fillers in beef protein. Yeah, it happens. You make sure you look at the ingredient profile. If you're having an ingredient profile that is has a ton of fillers in it, then you're not getting the pure protein. Yeah, it's pretty much junk. I mean, most people have heard of amino spiking, so you can think of it like that. Though I think that if you can't handle whey isolate, then just have food or maybe a plant-based protein. There's a lot of soy-free plant-based powders now that are pretty good, that you don't have to really guess and wonder, if you're getting a bunch of soy, it's all soy-free. So that might be an option if you really, really need a powder, and they compose them in a way that you're getting a complete amino acid profiles, their mixture of sources, just like a vegetarian or vegan would need to do. So actual food protein, I mean, if you're getting actual beef versus whey isolate, yeah, you're getting other components, arachidonic acid, you're getting creatine monohydrate, you're getting a lot of B vitamins, certain bioavailable types of iron, things like that from actual beef. So of course beef is probably going to be slightly superior, but again, comes down to that digestion. I did have one more question, which I believe was through my Facebook Messenger, and I'm gonna see if I can find it here real quick for you guys. And sorry about the delay. All right. Huh. I'm having a really hard time finding it. I'm not exactly sure who asked the question. That's bad. I should have written it down. Ah, okay. I take that back. They were asking where they can ask questions at for the next one, but there was no actual question there. So I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that's it, guys. I was kind of to the point today. So if anyone else has any questions or is anything I missed, please comment in this thread once I get this video posted, and feel free to ask those, and I'll try to put them on the next podcast, or I'm sorry, the next Q&A. So thanks, guys.